All right, lads, welcome back to me podcast, Cheaper Than Therapy. Mick Thomas here. Cheers for tuning in. Cheers for liking, subscribing, sharing, all that. Moving along with interesting people that I want to talk about, fun people I want to talk about. I have my buddy Jessica on joining me today. Jessica, what's going on, my dear? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. First thing I ask everybody coming on, that come on the show, how you doing with everything that's going on right now?
Um, it's been like 6 weeks of me home, so
Okay.
I mean, I'm I'm doing fine. I don't have children, so I feel like I'm really kind of winning. Um, I can only imagine what it's like for people with kids right now. So,
Yeah, you got to spend
yeah.
time with them now. It's fucking awful. It's just, there's a, like, even for them, like, there's a perfect cutoff time for anybody. Even if you're like, you have dogs, right? Or a dog?
I have a dog and a cat, and they're driving me crazy. So I can
Exactly,
only
right?
imagine what a child.
Right. So even the dog, you're like, fuck it, I've enough looking at your dumb face. Like, one days it's the most beautiful thing. It filled you up with life and joy and reason for existence. And then you're like, you know what, get the fuck out of my face. So yeah, so you are not in that kid boat. That's good for you. Um,
Yeah, I don't have
so,
kids.
so now you're getting affected big time, right? You're losing a lot because you are a yoga instructor, but it's not just regular yoga, correct?
Yeah, so my weekly schedule would usually be going into a bunch of different people's homes and working, with special needs, trauma survivors, a variety of different people in their homes teaching private yoga. And so social distancing doesn't really allow for me to go to everyone's home. So I'm doing some of it virtually. Some of my clients don't totally get it, or it's taking them a while to want to switch to virtual yoga or even try it. So it's kind of like in a limbo, I guess, type of thing, and everyone is scrambling in the yoga world to figure it out, and they're all making it a disaster.
So when you say special needs people, and is there an age group for that you deal with, or is it kind of just people who are dealing with just traumatic experiences as adults, and then you're trying, and also is follow-up question, is the type of yoga obviously a bit like, do you talk during the yoga? Is it like a therapy session? Is that like, all right, downward dog, or kind of, what's the difference between that and like if I just turned up to a regular yoga studio?
Okay, so those are actually some great questions. So first, I do all ages from like young, 3, 4, all the way up to like adults, like very grown adults, not just young adults. And it varies. It's a variety. Every person and client and individual has a different need. So, it's really just all adapted to that person. So age doesn't always have to do with everything that they're able to do. And not everybody has all the mobility that they wish they had. But movement does bring up feelings. So we do kind of chat, we check in, we see how we're doing. And then sometimes movement can bring on feelings that you want to talk about.
Okay.
Um, and that's just normal too. And then, yeah, people like to talk to me. So it does kind of turn into a therapy session. But like, I'm not a therapist, but I
Okay.
just listen, you
Right,
know?
right. So you don't offer advice kind of at the end of anything outside yoga is what I'm saying. You don't you wouldn't really be qualified or to offer any kind of advice.
I can't diagnose anything really or
Right.
anything like that. No.
Right.
Um, my most important thing is that I just really focus on self-love and teaching, the practice of loving yourself and just like being very forgiving to yourself, very like aware and patient and tolerant, and just really like telling yourself you love yourself. Like, we're not taught that. As a
Right.
kid, we're always taught to like tell your mom you love them, your dad. Now kids love their iPads and their stuff, and they're not taught to tell themselves they love themselves. So if I were to focus on really anything therapeutic. It is just that self-love journey, that forgiveness, that, life is whatever. And you got to love yourself. You wake up with yourself. You really only have you. So you got to
Yeah,
love that.
I don't think anyone, like, I mean, especially from an Irish upbringing, but I don't think anyone is taught to love yourself. Like I teach my kids like self-respect, but I guess I don't teach them. Yeah, go in there and love yourself. Give yourself a good old hug, or like I guess that's. I guess there isn't a huge importance to that, right? I guess
Yeah. No, it's not.
self-respect and self-love are two different things, I guess, right?
Yeah, so like I really end all my classes with what I call like a self-love hug, and it really is like hugging yourself. And I do have kids say out loud like I love me, I love me, I love me. And it's a big way that I end a lot of my classes, especially young kids, especially like I teach at a camp. Hopefully we'll have camp this summer, but who knows.
Right.
But, when I'm working with any age group, any person, any ability, like loving yourself is like the top. I don't care if we do any yoga, if you just hug yourself and love yourself. And that's all I really care about that we do for the time I'm with you, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's and you find people will do that, like say, oh, I love myself, and not mean it, just like, all right, this is what they want me, like my
Mm,
son has to do before his online school, and he has to do the Pledge of Allegiance, right? And you can tell he's not bothered with it, right? You can just tell he's like going through the motions. He doesn't probably understand the words, the meaning behind what he's saying. So do you find like at the end of a class or a session, you tell a person, because it's a hard thing to do, to say, yeah, I love myself. Do you find that people are just going through the motions, or it takes a while for them to actually kind of believe it and kind of, yeah, fuck, I do love myself?
I think it's different for everyone. I think the younger you are, the more they believe it, you know?
Right.
Like when they're young, they get it. Then they get to an age where it's awkward,
Okay.
and it's like, and I'm like, you don't have to say it out loud, of course, and you give them options of how they want to do it. But yeah, it's awkward, and I just discuss it like it's awkward and that we're not taught this, and that, but I do it with them. So,
Right. Right.
if I'm doing it, people are more likely to do it with me than to do it alone. And um I think at this point it's just so normal and natural for me that people kind of do it in a different way than people would just like go along with the Pledge of Allegiance, because I really think people want to love themselves. And
Right.
then even on top of it, you know, some of my clients really just parrot things and mimic.
Okay.
And so instead of them saying like something, they can say, I'm amazing, I'm proud, I'm amazing, or I love myself, I love myself. And if that's what they're going to be repeating for the next like 30 minutes, then that's what I'm happy about. So it's better than something negative or something, else. So giving them something, because it does, you have a reaction. Your words make up, your thoughts make up your life, you know?
You're 100% right. And here's the thing: what I noticed about, or what I've come to realize during this whole pandemic thing, is that like I think people's jobs, the ones that realize that they're not important. No, I don't want to say they're not important, because they put, they put a roof over their heads, they put food in their bellies, clothes on their back. So I'm not saying they're not important, by any means. But I think to find now, I think it, more than ever, is a great opportunity, a time for people to find like fulfillment. Like I've only started to realize, like I've been getting a ton of emails about, how much they miss stand-up comedy, because and then
Mm.
you don't realize yourself, because like I do comedy for my own selfish reasons, right? But when I'm there to work for the people that are there, right? Like
Right.
they
Yeah.
they got a babysitter, they drove here, they bought the tickets, they sat through whatever it is. They could be fighting. It's just not, you know what I mean? And when I'm there, I'm like, all right, these people are here. Like I've no arrogance with that. But I got into comedy kind of for myself. So, but I think like a job, I'm not saying my job is like yours and by any means, but you're definitely a job right now where you are serving a purpose, right? Where self worth is so important, that can help you move on, and holds people back, I guess.
I mean, I guess in one perspective, sure, but at the same time, like I totally reach for comedy and comedy specials and like funny things for me to get through my day. So
Right.
like how like what restores me? Like I can't just be giving and going out into the world and like preaching self-love and all this stuff and not be practicing the things that make me happy or calm me down or bring me peace or happiness or whatever. So it all kind of cycles and fuels it all together, you know? So
Yeah, because it's fine. Like I find like a lot of people now, like even myself, I signed up for online school. Like it's just I'm using the time for my benefit, right? And I think people are looking up now, and I know a bunch of people who are doing that, who are just changing their professions, like literally, kind of just like I got not. What else am I doing? Like let me just, I'm changing my profession. And of the 5 people I know that told me to change their profession, it's all jobs that would bring you meaning or some sort of enjoyment.
huh.
You know,
Interesting.
and I think where this came from, and this is where I kind of wanted to speak to you a little bit about, was because when I went into Best Buy before they closed down a few weeks ago, right? I was at the last stage. I was the day before they decided to just lock it down, and I went in and I bought a new laptop because I knew I would need one for all this kind of stuff, because more and more
Right.
work I do writing and stuff, and what I noticed was the guy said to me they sold out of all video cameras, like webcams. And I was saying, like, really, why? And I guess I wasn't thinking Zoom and Skype and that kind of stuff. And he's like, no, there's a lot of women, the guy said to me, are now going out to be like, they want to be cam girls.
Oh
which,
yeah, the OnlyFans and the private Snapchat world. Yeah.
yeah, isn't that like fucking just so, like, you just basically. Now we're going to talk about a little bit about what you used to do. You used to be I don't know what's the correct word. Is it a politically correct term? Like, is it an exotic dancer, like stripper? Like, what
I
word? If you were around in a round table having dinner with somebody, I'm like, hey, I used to be you.
I mean, I was definitely like an adult performer. It was like a
Okay,
bikini bar though. Like you
okay,
wore pasties and like a G-string.
okay,
And you could only like purchase, topless dances. You weren't just topless around the
right,
floor.
right,
And it was like a dive bar like setting versus like
okay.
a glammed out New York City, high profile club.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah, but here, like the thing about that, and well, I guess we might as well go into it since we started. Is that like, is there like an open mic for that? Like, how do you get into that? Like, what, not the psychological reasons. We could probably touch on that later, but
Mhm.
like, how do you like? Because I know like girls take pole dancing classes
Yeah,
for
so
exercise.
that's a new thing too. So like I stopped dance like working adult entertainment like 10 years ago. So it's been but I've obviously like had friends that are still in the industry and like watched and still like know what's going on. But yeah, so I think that way back when they do have amateur nights, but usually like amateur nights are kind of like an open mic, but usually it's people that used to dance and would just go and they'd all just hustle and like do their whole performance and like just try to make money for the night. And
Right. And is it advertised that it's amateur night, or
yeah,
is it? It
hmm
is advertised.
you like
Okay.
those are the fun ones to go to. So you definitely like something to check out. Like if strip clubs open again, is amateur
So
nights.
So what's the equivalent of a stripper bombing then? Because I'm referring all this, like, I'm comparing it
I
all to
mean, you'd make
comedy.
no money.
Okay, so nobody's gonna throw money
Yeah,
at them.
like imagine like nobody's even around. Like you're just standing there alone. Like nobody's paying attention to you. I guess would be bombing. You know,
So what? Like, people just kind of walk away, or to keep their money in their pocket, or
they find somebody else. That's the whole point.
okay, okay,
I mean, like even if you're performing, you're still competing with girls on the floor.
sure,
So, if you're not keeping someone's interest, somebody else will. That's the whole point, right?
right. See, I've been to strip clubs like many times with a comedian friend of mine who I will not mention his name, but he has this thing where he would go to a strip club and pay a girl to scratch his back.
hmm
Right, and that was his thing, and he would
Everyone
never
has a
be
thing.
like,
Yep.
everyone has a thing, I suppose, right? And he would never be like, like inappropriate. He would never like try anything more than it was. He would go, "There's $20, scratch my back, please." And I would sit there because I never bought into like I was just I'm at a stage where like, I don't want anybody to pretend to like me. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of not buying it. I'm not buying like the fact that you came over with everyone else in here to talk to me when you know well enough. Like you're only here because it's your job.
Well, you know, that to be fair, it's like if you're really annoying, they're not going to keep talking to you. So there is
Okay.
some level of like, you know, at some point it's like you're not even like worth my time. Like let me move on. You know?
Right.
So I mean,
I went with my brother once because it's funny, they stopped having strip clubs in Ireland years and years ago.
really? Wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
when they converted to the euro. Because what would happen was, yeah, because the euro, we used to have like pound, the Irish pound,
Uh-huh.
and you would have a 50, 20, 10, 5, and a 1, right? And the coins were kind of like what they have over here.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when the euro came in, the smallest note went to as a 5, and after the 5, your dollar became a coin.
And were
So
people throwing
nobody,
them at them or like
yeah, nobody was going to like throw coins at a dancer or on a
that's so
stage.
stupid that they close for that because there are some clubs that have their own strip club money where you have to like turn in money to get the fake dollars and then they convert it. Why wouldn't they just do
Right.
that?
You buy fake dollars, but I think what was happening is people were copying them and stuff, and they were arriving with like their own
Oh, the
versions of it.
counterfeit?
And
Gotcha.
yeah, so nobody saw them kind of throw it on the stage and that kind of stuff.
They couldn't figure
And
out the different paper for every day type of thing.
pretty much, I guess
Gotcha.
they're not the smartest
Yeah, I
people
could problem
when it
solve
comes
that
to.
really quickly.
Look at that! You could have your own franchise right now. You can move to Ireland and clean up.
I mean,
But so my brother came over here with it with one of my best friends, and I said, "All right, I'll," because my brother likes that. He
how
goes, "All right, I'll take
exciting.
you."
Yeah.
And it was, and again, I sat at the bar at the end, just talking to the girl working there, not one of the dancers. And of course, my brother and my friend were like, they'd never seen anything like it. So they were just back and forth, back and forth. So before we left, my brother came up and he goes, "I just gave $80 to that girl over there." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, she told me she wants to go back home for Christmas, but she doesn't have enough money." I go, "You fucking idiot."
I mean, yeah, everybody has their hustle. Like for sure, you know, something that works, you're going to keep working it. You know, everyone has their lines.
Right.
But we definitely do have, you know, girls that do have to get back home somewhere or send money somewhere.
Right.
I didn't necessarily work at a club like that, which I was like lucky about, which was like the privilege of like the dive bar setting, which I think why I never like left and like moved on to something bigger and better.
Right.
But and also like a lot of clubs girls have to pay to work and we didn't have to do that there. So
Really? They pay to work there?
yeah, they pay like a fee, like a dancing fee. So they'll give like the club like $80 to work their shift and then they got to tip out and all this stuff. So, it could be like you could be in the hole, if you don't make money if it's a shitty night, Some girls for
Is
sure.
it tough to have a relationship with somebody if you're a dancer or in the sex industry like that?
I mean, at the time I was only dating women and they were like
Okay.
dancers too. So, but I can imagine
Okay.
it
So
would
you
be
were
like really difficult now. I mean, I was young, so I wasn't like thinking relationship world, but yeah, I mean, it would be hard and it definitely probably is hard. I think that it's definitely like you definitely don't want your boyfriend coming and there's definitely like or your husband or anybody because it doesn't matter. There's going to be some primal like jealousy. So it's definitely would have to be a separation.
right.
But part of the reason why like OnlyFans is popular is because dudes are like, yeah, I'll bang you in the OnlyFans and like that'll be great. They want to like participate in it. So I think that it's a little different there um than even just porn and even just like people dancing. I think I don't know. There's something about that.
It's just a weird, like almost a step, because it's so funny. I was in with two other friends from Ireland that came over. We were at on Long Island. We were at a Hooters,
Uh-huh.
and this guy came in, started screaming at I guess they were boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever it was, very young. You could just tell the immaturity from both of
Right.
them. And it's like, man, you're in the wrong, like she's with the wrong person, obviously, because like that's her job is to be, let's be honest. I mean, nobody goes to, when you say Hooters, nobody's like, oh, those fucking wings are delicious.
Right. I
Do
mean,
you know what I mean? Like subconsciously people are going to see Hooters, and that's, and it's funny. I used to talk about it as a joke that Hooters was, I guess, one step away from a strip club. And I remember I went there to write with two comics in Islandia. It used to be one in
yeah.
Islandia, I think it was. And then when we went with the other comic to the strip club on a Sunday night on the way home from the club, one of the girls who was working at the Hooters about a month later was now dancing behind the bar at the strip club.
Yeah. I mean, but the bartenders are very different than the dancers. And like,
Oh no, she was dancing like behind, like taking it
I
off,
get it.
Like,
because everybody loves the bartender. Everybody loves the bartenders because there's like, they're not the strippers and they're all the fucking same. But whatever.
Right.
I mean, there's some, we could go into like the politics of that for a while, but that's crazy.
Sure.
I mean, it's just claims that like the pretty girls get to be the bartenders, or, just like the preferred girls. I don't know. And it keeps them.
Is that the case that they don't work as hard, or?
No, they work hard and they hustle. I mean, I bartended
Right.
too. You definitely, because some people go in and they'll just hang out at the bar,
Right.
So you definitely create more relationships with everybody at the bar as the bartender than,
Sure.
A girl who's just working and has their regulars and then just like has their specific clientele that comes in. You kind of have more do.
And they have to tip out too and all that stuff as well.
Usually you would tip out to the bartender or to the cocktail waitress or up. The bartender usually doesn't tip out.
Right.
But the girls tip out. So that's another good thing about the OnlyFans.
Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, see, you keep all your money.
Yeah, I mean, it is cool in the OnlyFans where it gives girls the power to produce their own stuff, own their own stuff.
100% safe.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't feel like showing up, you don't have to.
Right. So it is like that in webcam, and you can like pay for like services where they make sure that people aren't taking your content and like uploading it onto Pornhub and shit like that. So you can really protect your property, your content, your whatever.
No, I read something the other day, and I don't know if this is true. You may not, because you've left that world a long time ago, so it's not like I expect all the answers from you, of course. But I read the other day that PayPal have stopped totally helping out anyone who is considered in that industry now. So if you were to become a cam girl, or if I was a cam guy, you could not send me money through PayPal.
Yeah, I mean,
they have stopped. I think over 100,000 different accounts they froze.
I mean, yeah,
from doing it.
Because it becomes a very tricky area between what's like real, what's this, is there trafficking involved? Like, it gets very blurry right there. So, and it's like, you don't want to be responsible for some girl that turns out to be just 17, and now you're like,
that's true, right? You've no way
you don't know.
You've no proof either, right? So how do you know if there's a girl not on there? She's not like 16 years old, and like, is there a guarantee you get? Or
I mean, I think that's going to be interesting to see the way that pulls out. But I think you obviously say that you're 18 and you give, your license ID number and stuff like that to sign up for something like that. But I mean, there has to be ways
I never thought of that.
Like get around. I mean, of course there are ways to get around that, and people have already figured that out somehow. So,
because I always wondered that, if you go to a nightclub, let's say that the age limit to get into that nightclub is 21, and if a guy goes home with a girl or vice versa, and the girl turns out to be underage,
they're going to jail.
Yeah, but don't you think that should fall under the fault of the nightclub for, like, because you're legally not allowed in that door unless you're 21.
I've literally know people that have had that situation and did 10 years in federal prison. So it's
Jesus Christ, that's terrifying.
So, you take that chance, you take it.
Christ almighty, that's
And you got to think
terrifying.
about it now. Like now, it's like content and porn. It's like for every image, it's 10 years. So
Jesus
yeah, so you
Christ.
got to like, I tell people when they want to talk to their kids, about, you want to talk about protection, you want to talk about porn, and you want to talk about pictures. Because you don't want they got to know about like the rules, the laws, things like that. You don't want to have it, just don't participate in the pictures when you're young. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. Putting it out there. Porn is not realistic. Real life, that's not what girls are going to be like. That's not what you're going to be like. That's not what it's going to be like, and then obviously
Yeah.
protect yourself.
Because even me and my brother, we will Snapchat each other constantly. We both have very young kids, and we'll Snapchat pictures of like my son just getting out of the car instead of waiting to go into the house to take a piss. He'll just piss right there.
Little
in
boys
the garden.
love to do that. I have no idea why, but they
Right?
love it.
They love
it.
They love it. And he sent me videos of his son just stopping in the garden and squatting and taking a shit.
I don't know
And
about
it's
the
like,
pooping. I think kids love to pee. Like boys love to pee, but the shitting, that one I can't. I have like a lot of nanny years of proof of like little boys loving me being like, fine, you can pee outside, but none of them tried to take a shit.
But it's like, I'm like, I don't know if you should be sending me these, man, because like I always remember the story of the guy who took a bath with his kids. You remember that story when people were still developing pictures?
I mean,
and he brought it into Walmart to develop the pictures, and Walmart reported him. So they took. It's only him in the bathtub laughing and joking with his two
people
boys.
are so screwed up because I like dated this guy a while ago, and he was like an IT guy, and he found child porn on this guy's laptop, and he like turned it in.
That's obviously.
And then the guy tried to like blame it on his 12-year-old son, that his like son had it. And it's like a 12-year-old boy isn't looking at like 12-year-old girls. They're looking at like 18, 19-year-old. So, but like people are fucked up, and you don't really like think about it, but there are more people that are disturbing and disgusting than you would like really think.
Yeah, I try not to. Like I try stay rainbow.
I mean, if you have kids, how can you
lollipops.
think like that? It's like terrifying.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrifying. But I remember reading that case, and then like the guy who, I think he sued Walmart and won, but he's like, you assholes, you fucking you got my kids taking me from 30 days just because we were jumping around the tub, and like my wife took a picture on a disposable camera, and on top of that, there's like someone's birthday. Where, hey, here's us at the park, here's us at the zoo. Let's bring those pictures in to get developed, and then you get those two pictures of everybody splashing in the tub together.
I mean, I don't think anything was wrong with them calling the police. I'm like gonna like argue. I would argue the other way. I would say,
yeah, I get it. It's one of those things.
It's very hard because you don't know. You're developing these photos and you have no backstory, nothing. Who knows if that person's like a daycare worker during the day and a mandated reporter? You have no. And then what? They see that, they don't report it. Something happens. You don't want to take any chances with kids. You really, really don't. So.
Yeah, no, you can't. I 100% agree on too. But it's like, I mean, he obviously won the case, so I don't know what. Again, I'm not going to sit and pretend I know.
Did he like win it? Did it go to trial or did they settle?
You know what? That's a good point. They may have just settled. They probably here's a few million, leave us alone.
Like, let's have no lawyer fees. Let's have no slander, and like, let's move on. I can see that happening more because, I mean, if you really wanted to argue, how could you argue for, oh, it was so wrong of me. Legally, it was so wrong of me to call CPS about, because they have to do a home visit. It's not like they just, over that one developed photo, they took kids for 30 days. No way. They do a home visit and they have to like actually do stuff. They're not just taking those kids.
They don't just kick the door and come on, kids, you're coming with me.
I mean, our foster care system's so fucked up that,
right.
In some ways you wish that they could, but are they bad? It's situation by situation. But if you're at Walgreens developing photos and you come around, it looks like they're playing and they're happy, but you have no idea what's really going on, and you just got naked grown man and naked young children in a bathtub.
Yeah,
I'd call someone.
Yeah, I mean, I guess why do you need a picture of that? But then again, it's like, who's to? I don't know. It's such a gray area for me. Like,
Well,
it's,
like, especially
you
at
know
a
what I mean?
time
It
where
really
everyone didn't
is.
just have a phone in their pocket. Like they went out and they got that disposable camera and they chose to take those photos.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken baths with both my kids. I mean, I've never
Right.
whipped the
But
phone
you've
out
taken baths with
to
them,
take a
but do you need
picture.
to take photos?
No, that's what I agree. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Like, I guess there's no, why do I need
I
proof of that,
mean, and
right?
like, but like at this, like now that you have a phone on you, now if you have like two kids in the bathtub and they're covered in bubbles and you're outside of the bath and you take a funny picture of them, that's something completely different than you in the bathtub with them covered in bubbles taking photos.
Yeah, again, I guess it's kind of it's such a gray area. I guess even those guys who fight that kind of stuff on a daily basis don't know what their you know what their guidelines are. You know, it's what could be harmless to one person could be, you know, fucking traumatizing
Yeah,
for
and
another.
you know that photo taken to the wrong person, looked at the wrong way, could get you 10 years in federal prison. So
Jesus Christ, it's terrifying. Even when you say that, it's like
I'm,
fucking terrifying.
I hope I scare
Because
people. Do not take any child photos. Do not take any videos. Do not download it.
no more birthdays, no more birthday pictures, nothing.
No,
Fuck it. Let your kids just grow up,
no
and that's
suits
it.
only. Like, let's go.
Silhouettes that, like, remember you used to do like in the
Exactly.
1800s.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, just silhouettes and put that on the wall. That's all you get from
Yeah.
now on. Fucking hell. But I kind of want to go back, if you don't mind, talking about, you know, what gets a person kind of into dancing, into the adult entertainment business. Like, because you hear stories of some people like, fuck it, it's an easy way to make money. It's very empowering. You hear some people who come from traumatic experiences. You hear people come from just like different psychological problems, you know. So from the people you worked with and even yourself, like, what kind of drives a person into that world? Not to even saying it's a bad world. Like, I'm not even saying, like, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm really not knocking it, because like I
Yeah.
listen, those guys and girls work harder than
I
people I
mean,
know.
I was
um
young. I was 18. I was like only like 2 or 3 months out of high school. And the
okay.
club I worked at was 18 and over. Like you could go when you were 18. So it was like
Right.
exciting to go. So I just went as a customer and they did this hot oil wrestling show and I thought it was so cool. And it was, these girls were empowered and all this shit. And I just started, I don't know. I think I just participated. Like you could bid to participate in the wrestling show. And I think I did that once or maybe twice as a
Okay.
customer. And then you know, it's like I want to try it. But there's definitely a predatory thing where, you know, the owners of the club will notice if there are women there and they'll of course try to get them to work there. And I think that, you know, they advertise as bartenders and stuff and they get you to actually be dancers. But I think that there's like definitely probably like an underlying trauma that has to, I wouldn't say for everyone, but for many that makes you want to, you know, be in this hustling position of power and control because you
Right.
definitely have power control things like that if you're you know and you're hustling and you're kind of like living this alternate world and you're like always working at night so everything you're doing like you're living the nightlife like that's just your life so that's also
Right.
very exciting and very addictive on its own outside of you know, the drugs, the alcohol, the quick money, the people, the, you know, everything that comes with it. But yeah, I think that, you know, everyone probably has a different story, but I think everyone kind of has a story. But to be fair, though, I know a lot of women that are now, that were dancers and now amazing, doing amazing, amazing things, you know, with their lives.
Right. Right.
Um, And so there's really like no shame in it because you learn a lot. Like I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about women. I learned a lot about business. I learned a lot about myself, you know? So at the end of the day, like I definitely wouldn't change it for anything. But would I
Okay.
like go back and like tell my sister to do the same thing I did? Definitely not, you know? So,
It's kind of a different world now too, right? Like it's a scarier world now, I think, for that type of industry.
yeah, I mean, I think that it's changing. I think that in-person dancing will always be popular. I
Right.
think that strip clubs and stuff will always be popular. I think that now women have more power. I think they have more ability to make more content and have different streams of revenue, you know? Like I definitely had sold my socks or my panties, but now like you do it through the internet, So it's like it's a whole different
That's
world.
the that's I mean, I don't like, again, I don't knock anything or any person for being into that. Like, hey, I like to sniff armpits. I'm like, oh, that's your thing.
Yeah.
Good for you. But like, how do you know when you go online that you're just not buying like you're not buying anything? You know what I mean? Like, how do you know what you're buying? And
Hmm.
we're like, it's
So
just that
so they
one is the
do
weirdest one
say
for me.
that like obviously like pheromones smell different and that the men that
Right.
are like into those things can definitely smell the difference. And like, if you think about your underwear versus your wife's underwear, they're two totally different that you're like dealing with two totally different things. So, like at the end of the
Right.
day. But I mean, these men are crazy. I mean, I don't know if they're all men, but I'm assuming. So sorry, generalizing. But they're like are crazy and they'll like want girls to wear panties for like multiple days. They like it's like I don't know. I mean, people do it. I hear that there are like vending machines of them in different like Asian countries. I have no idea of like just used panties.
It's it's so
Mm-hmm.
weird. Like I knew this girl back in Ireland. She was a fighter that I used to
Oh, did
fight with and
people love
train
her
with,
panties
and
and her uniforms and stuff?
yes and no, but she would wear before the weekend if she didn't have a fight or she wasn't training that week, right? If she knew on a Saturday night she was going out, which I always thought was dumb because a woman picking up a guy is a hell of a lot easier than a guy picking up a
I
girl,
mean, you
right?
think,
So
but
if
it's
she
like
would just,
not. I mean, the world doesn't really work
I
that
guess
way.
I'm just
But
I'm
go
just
on.
being a yeah I'm a dumb ape
Yeah.
right now. I'm thinking like a dumb ape who years and years ago would be on the scene, right? But these like go out with your friends like a fucking bunch of
Right.
just apes.
Mm-hmm.
Um and this girl, she would like wear the same underwear all week up until Saturday night. And she said when she went out on a Saturday night, she said men could smell and all of a sudden became attracted to her. I'm like, what the fuck is
I
wrong with
mean,
you?
I believe that
And
100%. And it is true. Like even like dancers, like statistically, I think there's been studies done where like right before your period or like you have heightened pheromones then like when you're ovulating, they will make more money during that time. There is some biological scent relationship that happens 100% subconsciously. Oh, that exists. That's real.
I love what I love about that statement is like there's been
Yeah, I
studies
like there
done.
have been.
Like
I
I
I
want to
don't
know.
like have
I,
I know when you talked, I was like, am I gonna have to like have links to all the stuff that I know? But yeah, I mean,
yeah, what universe? I want to see the
I'll
university.
link it
You
to
know what
you.
I mean?
I'll get
Like
it to
just
you. I'll find it.
yeah, just a bunch of college
No,
kids
like
just
I
like,
think it's
oh
like a
well, this
reputable
girl.
study, like a female, like, and it make like so you got to think like women dancing, performing, brothels, they have existed forever, like all of time,
Oh, without
all
a doubt.
like whatever. So there has like so there's an ingrained biological thing that happens. Plus, the way animals mate, they do it through pheromones. Like we're still animals. Like we're really not so far removed from these primal feelings and that lizard brain that we have. And that's probably
Right.
kind of why trauma and the sex industry kind of go together because they work with that lizard brain a little bit. So,
I get that. I really do. And one of the weird things for me was which I because I always believe that look it should because I come from Europe where prostitution
mm-hmm.
is legal.
Which is
It's
beautiful, really.
safer. It's so much safer. It's so much safer. And the reason why I think we're a long way away from getting it legal in this country is because of shows like SVU. When that show always starts off with Law and
Mm.
Order, right? It's never like whenever they find a girl's body, it's always a hooker, Like they refer to it as a hooker or a stripper. It's never like, hey, Denise, we found this young girl, Denise, who also
Well,
used to be a, you know what I
unfortunately,
mean? It's like she's defined by her job just to move the story along. Like
I
she's not
think
even
that
a
that's
person.
also real life. They've always kind of been the expendable class, you know? So I
Right.
think that, I mean, SVU is like triggering in itself, like as just a show. Like, I
Sure,
mean, and
sure.
I think that like even the amount of episodes that they have of it, like, couldn't be the amount of crimes that like actually could happen. Like, there has to be, like, there's so many, like, there's what, some like 20 odd seasons. So it's insane. Like, if you're going to watch, to like binge watch like a 48-hour SVU marathon where it's just like child rape on like murder on rape on murder on trafficking on like craziness for like hours on end, that seems crazy to me.
Yeah, but I just think again, like the fact if it was a teacher, a kindergarten teacher got murdered, it's like, hey, this is Becky. She's a kindergarten teacher. It's just not like it's not like
Well,
it's in an
yeah.
alleyway. And I think if you I'm a hooker. We just found her. Just you just see a pair of legs
Think
hanging out
about
behind a
the like,
dumpster, and they're like, dun,
so
dun, dun,
crazy
dun, dun, dun.
dumpster
Like, no,
story
that's
is I worked, not to like sidetrack you, but I worked at Laser Kingdom. It was my first
sure.
job ever. I was 15. And it's like a laser
Laser
tag
King is that
place.
is that
Yeah.
what it sounds
And
like?
it was
Laser
like,
tag. Okay, yep.
and you'd have like the birthday parties there and whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
they found like a chopped up body of a dead girl in the dumpsters, like behind like two like
Jesus.
buildings down, and like we couldn't take the garbage out anymore. Um, but you also talk about, I mean, we live where Gilgo Beach is, and the Gilgo killer is out there, and he, targeted prostitutes and stuff, and he's still out among us, not solved. So I think that culturally, whatever, we're always going to be like blindsided, the discarded people. And unfortunately, they were probably been feeling discarded since they were little. You know what I mean? And unseen, and grew up in
Yeah.
that foster care system that once they're 21, they're just out on their own, nothing, you know? It's horrible.
I it's but I always believe that if you legalized it, I think they no longer become air quotes hookers, air
No, they
quotes
unionize.
strippers. They're people, right? They're people,
Yeah.
right? They're like hairdressers. They're fucking like anyone else.
I
They're like
mean,
anybody
I
else.
heard, and this
Hairdressers,
could be
plumbers.
wrong, but in some European countries, they like, it is legal, but you could get like a stipend or a little bit of money to, like, if you're disabled, to hire a prostitute or like a sex worker to,
Really? Oh, like part of
yeah,
your
like if you're
pension,
like all of a sudden like a quadriplegic, I don't know exactly how that works, but I think that,
like the government gives you a bit of
yeah,
money to help you get
like
laid.
food stamps, but
Oh
I don't
shit!
know. I'll
I
look
love
into
that.
that. It could just be my imagination because that runs wild too.
But it makes sense. So when you say it like that, it does sound
Right?
like
Like,
Europe.
if they have
You
like
know what
a
I mean? It does sound
disability,
like this poor man, he needs a hand job.
I mean, it is. And like people think like that, People think like they, you know, I don't know. But it is crazy. I think that if it was legal, of course, there would then be rights, and then there would be like, standards, and there would be
401ks
imagine.
and days
Well, there
off.
would probably definitely be some like health care involved, hopefully,
Right,
and
right.
we have so many issues in America that like bring you, it would be like you would have to then have to deal with homeless populations. You would have to deal with like young girls running away and young boys running away and being picked up by traffickers and pimps grooming them. Like you would have to like really like systemically change so much that like no one's gonna even like scratch the
Right.
surface of that. We're a mess already. So
Now, just based on what you said there, you had told me I don't use the word story, but you had told me something that happened to you. If you don't want to mention it, you can. You told me that you were
yeah,
abducted
I was
when you were younger.
15.
Are you
I
okay
mean,
talking about
yeah,
that?
protect your kids. We tell them not to get in vans with kids or men with candy. You know, you don't get in don't get
Right.
in like as a teenager, don't get in the car with young men with alcohol, or drugs or whatever. But yeah, I was just like waiting to pick up weed and met some guys and me and my friend and we hung out with them and then I just remember I wasn't able to leave. And then my
Right.
parents hired private detectives and I was, found. And
So how long were you
I
there
think it
for?
was like maybe it was 4 nights, 5 days, something like that. Something like less than a week,
Jesus.
but like longer than a weekend. I don't really remember much of it because there was like a lot of drugs involved, but
Drugs that you took
I
or
mean,
drugs you were
I was
given?
definitely given them. I really didn't have, I really
Okay.
only really smoked weed, you know, that's always kind of just
Right.
been, I've never been a really big drug taker personally, but yeah, it was
Sure.
wild. It's definitely wild.
But how long does it take you to like? Because I mean, that would fucking being that young and that happened to you. Like, I would be terrified. Like I was in a car accident and I walked away totally fine, not a scratch on me. And I remember for
Shakes you
months
up.
upon months, I didn't tell anybody. I was terrified to fucking get in a car. Like I would spaz out in
Mhm.
parking lots if someone drove by real fast. Like, how do you get? How long does
I
it
don't
take you
think
to
you
get over?
do.
Are you ever? Do you
I
ever
don't
get
think you
over it?
do.
You
I
don't
mean,
get
I
over it, right?
definitely have triggers and I definitely have,
Sure.
um, I think the biggest thing that stays with me is like the night terrors for sure. Like I still have those. Like it's
Okay.
definitely hard. Um,
Do you take anything for
no, not
those?
really. I mean, I am medicated, but not like severely medicated
Okay.
or anything like that. Like I try to keep it at a minimum. Um, but yeah, that was crazy. I don't know though, and like I've talked to therapists about this, if I have like more PTSD from like my time being abducted or the like year and a half I spent in institutions as a teenager.
Okay.
15, 16, 17. Instead of high school, I spent a lot of time in these like residential institutions. So I was with kids that were in foster care. I was with, my roommates were like 16-year-old crackhead prostitutes and their moms were their pimps, like, and it's like, what whole,
Jesus Christ.
I don't know. And it was wild. I've definitely met a variety of different type of people there, different than me growing up in suburban Long Island. So it was definitely shocking for me.
So, were you there because of what
So,
happened to you?
well, they brought me to the hospital, like for like an evaluation, all that stuff, and
Sure.
I was told like so. The, I think that like I really thought they were all against me, and I think that probably the guy, I don't even remember his name. I couldn't even tell you, but
Right.
I think he like really made me feel like they were all going to like be really against me. So I really wasn't trusting to the doctors either. And I didn't really understand what was going on. And like I was not compliant, And so then it's like they put you on that
Right.
72-hour hold type of thing. And then they kind of get to decide if you get to leave or not. And they just kept deciding I didn't get to leave. So they just kept sending me to another place, another facility. One was only for a month, and then they were supposed to like let you leave, and then they're like, oh, but you can't leave. You're gonna go to this place for 4 months. I'm like, oh, but you can't leave here. You're gonna go to this place for 8 months, and then finally, I was like, I figured kind of what every place I went, I kind of figured out the system, which didn't work in my favor always because
Okay.
but then and there's a whole money aspect to it because like a body is money and
Sure.
they pump me up with drugs and big pharma's a thing.
I was going to ask you, are you
Uh,
were you
I
like
was
heavily
so over
medicated through all
medicated,
that?
which is why, like, even though I need medication, I really try not to be over medicated because it was real. Like, I gained a
Right.
lot of weight. Like, I had, medically induced, like, gaining weight, just being on meds. But it was crazy. Um, yeah. And, like, So then eventually I was like, I just pretended to be a drug addict and then they sent me to the rehab, which I knew that after 3 months in the rehab, they had to like evaluate you and like let you, cause like the program end, it was like a program that had like an end date. So I went there and I just like was so good for 3 months and I got to leave. And oh,
Okay.
the pantry down the stairs was like covered in millipedes, like I remember. And it's like the creepiest thing. Like I
Jesus.
don't like bugs anymore. But um but yeah, like it was some crazy shit. And then I got released. And then I went to like Narcotics Anonymous meetings. That was part of like my release plan. And
Okay.
those were fucking crazy too. So like Predator is in there. Also, like do not send your kids to those. Um, oh, for sure.
Really?
For sure. I mean, I was young. I was like
Jesus.
18, 19 years old in these things. They have the
Um,
prey.
you
You
still
know,
there?
predators like they know the people
Oh,
that have been abused or have had a hard time. Like there's something about you that they can sense. It comes back to that lizard brain concept. No, they just
how do
are
they get in
also
there though? They
addicts.
pretend to be addicts
You're gonna tell me
themselves,
a
or
crackhead is like a normal person and they're
oh,
coming
okay,
out of smoking
okay,
crack for years, a normal person that's like
right,
really
right.
gonna be helping and sponsoring people. There's no actual like doctor, any actual medical person there, and it's like being run by like somebody who did federal time. Like that person's really gonna like be able to manage everything. No, no.
So what do you do? Like, what got you from there? Like, from you said you were 19 there at that place. So what gets you from 19 years of age to where you are today, running your own small business, and being at peace with yourself and talking about love for everybody? And because that's from
Yeah,
what I'm
it
hearing and
is
what
for
I'm
sure
seeing, it's like
growth.
it's just all growth,
A lot of hard
right?
work.
So
A lot of hard
what
work. And
got
I
you there?
started doing the work while I was still dancing, to be honest. I got into therapy while I was still dancing. And my last year working at the club, I started bartending and I slowly got myself out of it. I quit smoking cigarettes. Like I just went into this like deep therapeutic time and focus and I saved up some money so I didn't have to work. And I just like, I didn't send myself anywhere. I was like maybe 22, 23. And I just kind of went to therapy twice a week and I just started writing a gratitude list. And I think that maybe the gratitude list is one of the best things I ever did for myself because for like 3 years straight, every night I wrote three things I was grateful for. And when it gets, yeah, of course.
Were they different every night?
I mean, sometimes they were the same for
Or you
like a
tried to be
week,
different every night?
sometimes they'd be different. Often it
Right.
eventually just got to very basic, simple things where like I am grateful I have a safe place. I'm grateful that I have a bed. Like I'm grateful that, you know, they were just very then basic things. And as soon as you start to really be grateful for the basics, everything else is just golden, you know? And when you've had the basics taken away from you,
Yeah.
which I definitely have had forcefully, you know, and in very vulnerable situations, I think, you are really grateful. Like, I am so grateful that I get to literally be my own boss, create a company and a business that I love, be the type of yoga teacher I want to be the type of person that I wish I had or was around. You know, I try to be like that example. And it makes me a little bit different and
Yeah.
like hard to understand because I'm so driven and focused. And so, relationships suffer, like I'm single because I'm just so driven and my mission is so much more than like getting a husband and settling down and like having a family. I'm more like, no, we all need to love ourselves. Like that's what we're doing, right? Because I promise the more you love yourself, the less outside factors are going to come in and get you, the less what other people think about you are going to have anything to, all that little stuff. You're going to be like, whatever, man, and move on because you know your core, you're authentic, you're doing your best. And if you can forgive yourself for all your mistakes and be like, you know what? My learning moments are really just that, then and you get down to just being grateful for having running water, heat, you know.
I think you are, I guess, dealing with this quarantine then a lot easier than a lot of people because of you now
Right.
trained
I mean, I
yourself
have a
to
home.
obviously put what's important in
I'm not
front
a
of you.
homeless person in this epidemic right now. I'm
Right.
not an abused child stuck in an
Yeah.
abusive household that doesn't get to go to school. I'm not a child that's dependent on the school system to be fed. I am not, a kid that got to finally get out and go to college and now they're back at their house. I'm blessed. I'm very, very blessed. There are a lot of people that are now
Yeah.
stuck in these
Yeah.
very unsafe situations. Of course, right now, domestic violence is going to go up, relapses, addiction, all those things, they're all going to go up. They all raise up in these times. And that's why it's important, little things like the rainbows that everyone has in their windows, or I made a big thank you sign, little stuff like that,
Right.
um, we really have to be grateful.
Well, I'm going to end it on that
Yeah.
positive note, if that is okay with you. That was we are pretty much up to an hour, and I just had a lot of fun talking to you. Do you want to promote your business? Do you want to mention where people
Yeah.
can find you, get in
I'm
contact with you if they want
Spiraling
to,
Hearts
or no?
Yoga. So you can
Go
just
ahead.
really look up Spiraling Hearts Yoga and you'll find my website, my social media, all that stuff. It's pretty easy to find me. Branding.
All right, Jessica, thank you so much for jumping on. I really loved talking to you. You're a very interesting person, very inspiring, and I love the positivity that you
Thank
have.
you. Yeah.
And I hope it's infectious to me and to other people. So thanks so much for joining us. All right, folks, listen. Thanks again for tuning in. That was a fun one, right? Any questions, comments, concerns, please send them to my Instagram, Mick Thomas Comedy, and I'll respond back. Or if you want to get in contact with Jessica, you can send it on to me, and I'll definitely forward any comments onto her. So, guys, thanks so much for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you again. Good luck to you. Be well, be healthy, wash yourselves, you fuckers. Bye bye. Take care. Good luck.